Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the next edition of the DFS Down Under Show. This is round 8 of the AFL presented by Draftstars. Now, Draftstars, your number one daily fantasy platform in Australia of seeing customers here in Australia and New Zealand win massively big on AFL daily fantasy this season. We've got the kit back on, Hef, as I bring you in. Round 8, Cats and Tigers. I'm looking forward to the show, mate. Thanks for joining me.
No worries at all. Yeah, the kit, I've given this hoodie a bit of a hide in the last few days, a bit of a cold snap down here in Tassie, so I'm looking forward to the winter with this piece of merchandise. Really nice and comfy and warm.
It is nice and warm. Thanks to Draftstars for the kit. And look, as always, we are streaming the show this evening, so if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. Love to get your comments and feedback throughout the show. Good slate this one, Tigers and Cats. We'll get stuck that into early, but as I teased a little bit earlier in the show, has been quite tradition here for the DFS Down Under show to recognise the winners throughout the season for their big wins. And this season, I haven't really been motivated to give shout outs, but with the golden ticket here now from Draftstars, the 300k live final, guess what, Hef? The two thumbs are back.
It's back.
Now,
is that part of the official winners pack? Is you get 2 thumbs up from Smatho?
I was going to say it's not actually written into the T's and C's for the 300k live final. I don't think I've actually run it past Draftstars that the old 2 thumbs up is made back into the show. So if anyone from Draftstars is watching it and thinking, what the hell is going on with Smatho, then just watch this. This is great comedy gold coming up. So obviously last week, we started off with the golden tickets, and we just thought there might be a couple of golden tickets per slate. Guess how many tickets were given out over the weekend, Hef?
I'm going to guess 10.
10? Close. 10. 11 golden tickets were given out over the weekend. There were 6 on Friday. No, it's more than 10. Hang on. 6 on Friday. 4 on Saturday. You start taking
your shoes off to count these up, Smatho. We'll just move on.
It's more than 10. Look, the 2 thumbs up is back. Let me share these guys here who made a golden ticket. Jay Barrett, 16. Delmy, Jay Nyrens, Big AJB, Hutchafon. He won the little $2 one on Friday. It wasn't the biggest fields ever for a qualifier, so for winning that. Procession, T Batter, Rob Manis, Bricker, W Skin, JK123, the GOAT, and Tex Coin all are coming to the Draftstars live final. So any of those names that 13? There you go.
Yeah, that's good numbers.
Now I could go through all one of these and give you 2 thumbs up, but as a collective, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click this button here. It just makes it a solo blowout. Look at it. 2 thumbs up to you guys. Well done. Look forward to seeing you at the Draftstars live final. So what do you reckon, Hef? The 2 thumbs up is back.
It's back. Well, it's well deserved. We've been a couple of years in the making, the next live final. I'm sure everyone that's got a ticket will be absolutely rapt that they've also got the thumbs up to go with it. There's some names we know there, a fair few of them actually. What a night for Jay Barrett it was last Friday night. Obviously, big fan of the show, tuned in and got all his winning tips and cleaned it up.
He certainly did. So he's full allocation, so he can just sit back and watch the competition now. I'm sure he'll love to know some of the winners throughout this season. So stay tuned to Draftstars. There might be some little sneaky previews and interviews with potential ticket winners. So keep an eye on that, Hef. So
roaming Smatho will be back, will he?
Well, let's work on the roaming Smatho. Hopefully, we do some great work here on this show. We might get an invite back. We're not over the line just yet, Hef. We're not over the line. All right. Let's get stuck in some footy. Now, obviously, we are here to preview the Cats and Tigers. We are here for Draftstars. There's $75,000 prize pool. $15 entry, $7,415 first prize with a kickoff time at 7:50 p.m. So, Hef, let me break down the teams for you first of all. Actually, the market, Tigers are favourites, $1.57. The line is around 5.5, 6.5. Where you're looking, 153.5. And we're at the MCG for this. It's a partly cloudy day into a cool night, so no issues with the weather. Now, in team news, very important team news here. So for the Tigers, we've actually lost Trent Cotchin to a hamstring injury. Dylan Grimes is out with a concussion. Dustin Martin is back after serving his 12-day concussion protocol. And Nick Vlosten is also back after injuring his knees, I think, back in round 1. What do you think of those Tigers changes, first of all, Hef?
Yeah, we do talk a little bit on how the structure's affected. Not too much going to change there. Vlosten in for Grimes. Maybe that means Asprey or Broad have to be a little bit more accountable, but really it's not much of a difference from a fantasy perspective. And Dusty in for Cotchin. Probably just take all those centre bounces. Obviously, Dusty drifts forward more, so maybe a little bit tiny bit of extra burn through the middle for a couple of those guys, but not really much to write home about.
All right, let's have a look at the Cats' inclusions. So, Kieran Myers is actually out with a fractured leg, but somehow on the AFL side has him down as an illness. So,
I'd be feeling pretty sick if I broke my leg too.
Sean Higgins is back after recovering from his hamstring injury. Jordan Clark has been omitted. So that's one question that we don't have to ask on this particular slate for this one. So Higgins and Sam Simpson is back in for his first game of the year. So good on for old Sammy Simpson getting a run for the Cats. So what about these Cats-ins? What do you think about this one?
Cats-ins. One thing I'll note with Higgins is he's coming back from a hamstring, but by all reports, the hamstring wasn't too bad, and he's actually had the thumb as well. So sometimes you can be a bit scared to play a guy off a hamstring injury, but I think he's had an extra couple of weeks to get his thumb right as well. So, and Sam Simpson, I remember his first game last season. I came on and basically pasted him and said he was a bit of a risk, and he scored 100 something at 5K. So I might have to shoulder arms on any comments about Simpson. Structure-wise, though, Zach Guthrie was the sub last week and now gets a full game. So that's these ins and outs. They're quite happy to put the subs as an out, but you sort of got to dig in and find out what happened with the subs sometimes. They're not listed when they get picked for a full game. Now, Quinton Narkle attended half the centre bounces last week in a pretty tight centre bounce rotation. So in theory, there's about 50% worth of centre bounce attendances to be picked up the slack by someone. Higgins hasn't had much of a run in the middle this year. Simpson last year played some through the middle, some up forward. Bit of a guess, to be honest, what they're going to do there, but there is a little bit of opportunity there for someone if you're confident that you know what they're going to do.
Excellent. I do like those thoughts there. Also, I do like is getting onto Daily Fantasy Rankings, which is at dailyfantasyrankings.com.au, using the 3 tools and the previews on that particular site. And what do the DFR tools say for this particular match? Here comes my little screen again. Here we go. Cats are last in the league for giving up fantasy points to the backs. Cats give up the 4th most hitouts in the league to opposition ruckman. Cats only give up 1.9 fantasy tons per game. And for the Tigers, they are 3rd in the league for giving up fantasy points to the backs. And the Tigers are 4th in the league for conceding uncontested possessions. So the tools say that we are looking at some Cats options. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, excuse me, the backs is the one that stands out really clearly there. But then that uncontested possessions stat is quite handy down the bottom. We might use that as the night goes on.
All right, let me bring up the Draftstars lop in. Let's get stuck into some teams. $75,000 up top. Also available is the $10,000 high roller, the mini, the micro, the single entry, but more importantly, the golden ticket. Now, as I bring up the Draftstars lobby here, as you can see here, there's actually only 1 ticket contest left up for grabs at the moment. So I'm not quite sure what Draftstars are going to do tomorrow before the bounce, because the $50 one is quite popular. But if you can see here, just the one there at the moment. So as I go into that particular contest, let's always start here. Hang on. Let me go. There we go. There we go. As always, so let's start with the rucks. And we only got 2 options here for this first particular matchup. Toby Nankervis at 13,080 and Reece Stanley at 10,680. I thought Asava Radaglia was going to get a go. There was some news today that he was going to be in contention, but no, he's named as an emergency. So, look, Toby Nankervis, rock solid, fantasy option. plenty good history with him at the moment. Form's 101.7. Some great fantasy scores there, but at 13,000, is that a bit too much, or can we go down to Reece Stanley at $10,680? Take it away, mate.
Nankervis is. If you had to pick a guy, you'd probably go Nankervis. He's in superb form. Reece Stanley isn't. He was absolutely pants last week by Hickey. But then you just got to think. I don't know. Stanley's got to have a bit of sting in the tail from that performance. There is a not insignificant difference there in the price. And go back to the grand final last year, and Stanley actually outscored Nankervis 82-64 in the shortened quarters. To be honest, I'm sort of leaning 50-50, and I'll be quite happy to take whichever ruck fits the build of the rest of my lineup, really. So I'm not... I think Nankervis is probably the guy, which isn't saying a whole lot, but I'm definitely not against Stanley. He does seem to pull out scores just when you think it's easy to take him on.
Yeah. I agree that Stanley can go toe-to-toe, and obviously the history is there that he did won the fantasy battle in the grand final, but I think Nankervis is in great form, and at 13,080, I think we might just have to pay up for him here, and hopefully he does reach that 100-plus score for us.
Like we say, some weeks we're confident on the rucks. This week I'm not as really. I don't have great opinion. I've got some more opinions elsewhere, though.
Very good. All right, let's look at the defenders. After cashing in on the Tigers' backs last week, we talked about Daniel and Keith and Wood are all junked it up against the Tigers' backs. We come up against the Cats, who are very, as I said in the notes, very restricted to opposition backs. So I'm going to concentrate on Cats here. Talk me through some options that we can look here in our backline for the Geelong Football Club.
Yeah, well, Geelong are not a great team when you want to pick up some backs in fantasy. They've got Tom Stewart, who always stands out as the obvious. 14,500, pretty reasonable price too. Look at that for consistency, 99 plus in his last 5, and he gets a great matchup here. They give up points to backs, Richmond. They give up uncontested possessions. We saw actually Stewart's first quarter in the grand final last year was unbelievable against them, and they slowly quelled him as the game went on. I don't know whether Hardwick might come up with a plan for Stewart or whether they put something in place last year, but compared to all the other guys for Geelong they're just sort of battlers, and I think they got shown up in the grand final. They didn't have a whole lot of quality by foot in their back half, whereas Stewart is the guy who uses it really well and they look to get it to. So Stewart's the obvious guy. Jack Henry's a guy who they used in the ruck last week, which seemed weird. They got Stanley and they got Blixarves and they used Jack Henry. He had 5 hitouts. Quite a good target around the ground. He can take a mark. Obviously scored really well in his last couple there. So at that price, he gets the added bonus. He might get on his bike and get around the ground a little bit there, Henry. So he's definitely in play. Tommy Atkins is a guy I don't mind as well. 11,000. Always been a bit of a battler up forward. This year playing off half back. He does tackle really well. Tacklers against Richmond is not great, as we'll see later on, but that just gives him a little boost if he misses out on the chippy. So at 11K, I think he's definitely all right. And the other guy is sort of Blixarves, who don't really know why they used Henry instead of Blixarves around the ground, but he did play a fair bit in the ruck later in the game, and it wasn't reflected in his score, but he does get around the ground pretty well, Blixarves. So once he's getting down to that sort of 9,000 price range, I think he always comes in play there too. I think I've lost the great man. No, I've lost my camera. Sorry, just bear with me while I try and get out of here. So what I might do, I might put you up into here, and then you can go into here like this. We could run with this permanently. Actually, looks like an improvement to me. We'll jump over to Richmond. How about that? I think I've lost him completely. Well, talking about Richmond, obviously all the focus is going to be on the Cats defenders because Richmond give up a lot of points to backs. We saw that last week against the Dogs, and we have seen it consistently. And then when you look at Geelong, they've consistently been among the lowest in the league when it comes to conceding points to backs. So it's hard to make a case for Richmond. One guy I will sort of note is Basher Hooley, who's there at 12,600. Had a big game last week, which was a much different matchup against the Bulldogs. The grand final, you can sort of write off. He had a 30 there, but he was injured. Halfway through the year, he had a stinker up there in Queensland against Geelong. But go back to the preliminary final these two teams played a couple of years ago, and he had a big 120. Does love playing at the MCG, Bashahuli, and if you're looking for you're looking to go against the data and get away from where all the ownership's going to be, he's still pretty well priced, Bashahuli, at 12,000.
I do like Bashahuli. Any cheapy Tigers guys? I know the data doesn't suggest that you should go for these guys, but there's no Grimes anymore. Obviously, we don't have to worry about him. Ryan Mansell was quite popular last week, but only scored, what did he get in the end? 46. I just can't really see getting cheap down in this position here.
No, it's hard. Nick Vlosten is the obvious one. He's a $9,000 to $11,000 defender when he's up and going. So coming back from injury, he gets under 8,000. So he's underpriced, Vlaston.
Yep.
It's not a good matchup, but yeah, he does float around and can take a mark. So if you're looking for a cheaper guy, he'd be my pick.
All right. He's in my pick. Nick Vlosten, 7,980, and I put Tom Stewart there at 14,500. All right, let's move on to the midfield. As we know, Hef Tigers matches the Tigers do tend to score on the lower side of the fantasy points. So they have that huge ceiling scores. But let's start with them to start with. Shai Bolton at 13,080 is our most expensive midfielder. And then coming down to Dustin Martin at 12,860. Is there any Tigers that you want to target in this particular match?
Well, hats off for you to playing Shai Bolton last week. I was kind of against him, but he not only did he score 100 points, he had an absolute ripper of a game and was instrumental in that Tigers win. So, there's 3 tons in a row, and at 13,000 is still quite a good price when he's peeling off scores like that. So I'm sort of still half against him here against the Cats. It's very hard to come up with guys to go big against the Cats. But yeah, I'm not. Well, if you want to play him, you've got blessings from me. If you even need them, Dustin Martin's too cheap, 12.8. I expect him to be quite popular. He does have games where he does have down games, but he's got massive upside, and he absolutely ripped him apart in that grand final last year. So yeah, he's the guy that stands out. Another Titchy Edwards is getting basically unlimited time on the ball at the moment. I don't think that'll change with Cochin out of the team. So at 12,000 for a guy who's getting that sort of burn, he's really consistent. The upside isn't there so much. You sort of got to go back a couple of years. He has gone the rare 130, but he does love playing in big games, Edwards, and this is a big game. It's actually the 3rd big game in a row for Richmond. So if you have a theory that teams can't get up week after week, that's a little thing to keep in mind as well.
Now, also the media and / commentators for these Richmond games have been really talking up Jack Graham here at 10,100. 68 last week was okay, but at 10,100, I'm really keen on Graham just as a bit of a cheapy value guy. Would you agree with that, or should I be looking elsewhere?
Look, he's always been on my radar, Graham, when they go down a mid or two, because that opens up his role through the middle of the ground. The concerning thing for me with Graham is the last few weeks they have had those roles. They preferred Collier Dawkins through the middle last week. He had 68% of those centre bounces. Graham only had 18, and in fact, he hasn't had more than 30 in his last 4 matches. So they seem to be preferring him off more of a high half forward role, Graham. Even Ross and Pickett were used more in the centre bounces, although Pickett tends to get used as the second ruck now. But look, I just don't quite know with that role for Graham how much upside there is, especially against a team like Geelong.
Buggy, mate. I'm playing him. Great explanation. My camera is playing up tonight, so I might have to change cameras here. So just bear with me for a second. Are we back?
Well, you fiddle with that. I'll go through the Cats.
Here we go.
You're back?
Go for the Cats. I'm back.
Go through the Cats.
I'm holding my finger on the USB port here, so if I flick it out, I'm moving, which is great.
Yeah, well, the thing I look at with the Cats is that the midfield for the Cats has been so consistent. They're so exposed that the prices are basically what they probably should be. Trying to look for an angle. Obviously, we know Richmond don't care if midfielders go huge against them. That preliminary final I talked about, Basher Hooley having a big game. Tim Kelly had 150. They just sort of let him run right. You did show a stat about uncontested possessions before. Doubling up on that, Richmond have conceded few contested possessions, and they give up the least amount of tackles to the opposition in the league. So, on that basis, I'm steering away from the likes of Selwood or Parfitt, and then I'm sort of concentrating on the guys that get that easy, cheap ball like Duncan, Guthrie, Isaac Smith, and Sam Menengola, who has been sort of underperforming, so to speak, but at 11,000, I think he's a really intriguing option because he can ton. Even Tui sort of fits that bill, but he's quite happy with Menengola, actually.
Yeah, I do like that outside run, uncontested possession, no tackle. So they're the two that kind of fits their bill here. Guthrie, Menengola, even a bit of Isaac Smith, if you can get him the forwards as well. But as you can see here, I'm starting to run out a bit of cash here. So I have left the cheaper guy here down here, which is obviously, you've got pretty much a choice in two, which is obviously Riley Collier, Dawkins, and Jack Ross. Obviously, Jack Ross last week scored 48, but still at 5K, whereas, RCD managed to go for a little bit more at 63 and gets that little bump in price rise. So in a vacuum, they both seem to be good plays, but if you were going to choose one, is there one you're leaning over the other, or you don't really mind who you get?
Well, I had a bit of egg on my face last week. I put my whatever's on the line and said I'd go Ross over Collier Dawkins, and I got that one wrong. I think Collier Dawkins is going to probably be way over-owned in comparison to Ross this week. He sort of caught the attention of everyone, got a heap of time in the centre of the ground, which we thought he might have, but he had good tackle numbers. We took a couple of good marks, actually, Collier Dawkins, and I sort of didn't quite expect that from him. But we talk about backing the truck up, Smatho.
Well, I was going to say, can I pose a question? Can I pose a question? Are you... Geez, I haven't meant to have the chance to pull that out, but
no,
are we back in the truck? Are we back in the truck up on Jack Ross?
Double or nothing, Jack Ross. Look, yeah, why not? Like, he had 32. He was in every third centre bounce, as opposed to Collier Dawkins, who was in 2 of every 3 centre bounces. Obviously, we've seen. Well, I hadn't seen a whole lot of Collier Dawkins play before. He was quite impressive, but. From an ownership perspective, maybe there's a case to be made for giving Ross another go. It is a bit of the old back the truck up, but yeah, just so you could play that, we brought that up. I think, Smatho, I'd actually be quite happy to play both of them. Now, there's an angle in a match where there isn't a heap of cheap options, and we'll get into the forwards in a sec. If you don't want to play too many cheaper forwards, you could go with the 2 cheaper mids. A lot of these mids can be played in the forward line as well, so that's not a bad option.
Well, that was my point when I go here to the forwards position, because have a look at all these people who've got midfield status. Look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The top 5 are both mid forwards. You have to come down here to Tom Hawkins at 10,340 for a lead up forward, and then you've got Rewalt and Tommy Lynch, Castagna. I mean, they're okay options. We saw that Tommy Lynch popped last week and was in the winning side. So you get these guys at low ownership, but gee whiz, there's not many reliable targets, would you say? Let's focus on these ones first of all.
That's very well said. Sorry, who do you want to focus on first?
The forwards, the actual no mid forwards, the actual. Okay. Well, the ones that don't get
the actual forwards.
the actual.
Let's talk key forwards, because key forwards against Cats has always been my pet hate, especially being an Eagles fan and knowing that they dominate with the key forwards. It's always rough when they come up against Geelong. So that's an angle I never really like to play. So when you talk about Tom Lynch, he's probably going to be quite popular because he went berserk last week. Well, not quite popular, but he'll have some admirers. I said last week I wasn't a huge fan of him, but he's a type of guy that you'll probably always want a little bit of exposure to just because he can go huge. If you scroll down, Jeremy Cameron on the other side, he's the cheap guy. We talk about Vlosten being cheap up forward. Cameron's always been he's more of a $10,000 player. Obviously got a new role, but coming off a Sydney game, we know Sydney are a hard team to score fantasy points against. Richmond's not much better, but only takes getting on the end of 2 or 3, and he can make value there, Cameron. But overall, I think I'd probably prefer to play as many midfielders as I can in the forward line, because these guys are very hit and miss, and yeah, they're coming up. They're 2 good defenses, these teams, so they're going to have their work cut out for them.
Okay. Probably a question without notice, and probably one that requires a bit of research. But this is obviously Jeremy Cameron's probably first game on the MCG in quite a while, so we might have to delve into the record to see what his stats are back from the GWS days back in probably 2018 or 2019. I know he had a stinker in the grand final a couple of years back, but it's worth looking up because at 7,900, I might just keep in my back pocket here for my last forward position. But as you said, Hef, we want to concentrate on these midfielders who get forward status. And elite, starting here with Isaac Smith, 13,560. Loves the G. Look at the scores. He's been sneaky good. Look at that, 96, 104, and 100. He fits the mold of that uncontested. So he's ticking a lot of boxes here for me, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't talk you off any of the top 3. Higgins, I don't know if he's just there on almost like those old guys that went up to Gold Coast and just retired the last couple of years. I haven't seen too much from Higgins yet, so he's hard to play. Parfitt we spoke about. I'm not against Parfitt, but he doesn't fit the mould that we're sort of looking for. And answer without notice, Jeremy Cameron's last 2 games at the MCG in 2019 were a 90 and a 97. So
straight in.
There you go.
In he goes. All right, so 13,840 left. That means I get the whole forward slate here. All right, Isaac. All right, so Isaac Smith is good. Bolton good. Martin good. All right, before I finish this team off, are there any other guys here that we want to? Like, is there any cheap guys here that you probably want the Garen Rowans, the Dan Riolis of the world?
Oh, you sort of know what you get with these guys, and it's not much. So, not saying one of them can't sort of pop off, but they're hard to give any sort of recommendation to.
Mark agrees. This team's going to win. All right. So there's my. Yeah, I know.
No, this team isn't going to win because you're going to put up my team in a sec, Smatho.
I will put up.
This team's going to come second.
Now, this is the point of the show where you hit the pause button, you get your little screenshot, you save it, and then you won't enter it into the qualifier because this is the team that I'm going to be rolling in on a Friday night. So,
yes.
All right, so let me hit that X. There it goes. All right, without further ado, you go through what your team looks like here on Friday night.
Right, let me give you a team. We'll go with Nank in the ruck.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with Henry and Atkins in the defender slots.
Here's Jack. Where's Mr. Atkins?
So
there he is.
In the midfield, we're going with the cheap combo of Ross and Collier Dawkins.
Yeah, Ross Dog and RCD, yes.
I'm going to go the Guth Pig and Sam Menengola.
Righty-o.
And I've got lots of money up forward for I Omith, as they said on Brownlow Night one year. And
who are you talking about?
Isaac Smith.
Oh, okay.
They gave I Omith 3 votes one year. But anyway, and Dustin Martin. Look,
380 left in the bank. Now, that's a great. That is a good-looking side here. Now, poor old Jamie here is a bit concerned about your welfare this evening, so we'll get on the hotline tomorrow and book your appointment so we can look after you, and then obviously
down here on the Apple Eye, we don't have to worry about this.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Excellent team there, Hefs. Now, obviously, get on the draftstars.com.au to enter the contest for this week's AFL Daily Fantasy Contest. Hef and I will be back next week. I still have my finger on the camera cord here, so I'm just about done with this. So thanks for all the viewers who tuned in tonight. Hef, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Good luck. Good luck. Don't put multiple teams in the qualifiers. That's my other advice. We saw a couple of people put multiple teams in, and you can only win one ticket.
That's right.
Multiple, you got to play multiples like Jay Barrett,
and don't play trains. I saw many contests last week. They were playing trains, like the 5 entries of the same team. You don't need to do that. Anyway, nice to see you, Hef. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next edition of the DFS Down Under Show. Thanks, mate.
Ready? Can't wait. See you later.